You don't exist. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Dead up perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 5th part of What If Naruto Meets Americandad? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of DRAGONfromheaven on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Naruto's house. "Girls, are you all home?" he asked as it took him an hour to get home due to the traffic from the streets being closed. "Yeah, what was so important?" Lisa asked as Hailey grew confused from seeing her mother and her friend Linda following Naruto. "Well, let's just say a lot happened, and as much as I wanted to call you all earlier but everyone was so busy, but with what just happened it can't wait any longer," he said as Francine nervously moved behind his back while Linda's eyes seemed to spark as her mind made the connection. "This is a HRM, isn't it?" Linda said as she shocked everyone in the room as he hadn't told Linda of his situation yet. "Why yes, but how did you figure that out so quickly?" Lisa asked as Linda giggled. "Honey, with how I grew up I know what a HRM looks like," Linda said as she turned to Naruto. "You see, when I was little my mom was a member of my dad's HRM, but when we had to escape our home he only was able to take my mother with him. After moving here he was upset at not being able to save everyone else, so he decided to only stay with my mother," she said with a frown before Hailey gasped as she was able to guess why they were called. "Mom! Please do not tell me you actually want to be with my boyfriend." Hailey yelled in shock as Francine held up her hands. "It's not my fault. I am so tired of your father's neglect and near abuse that Naruto's kindness made me fall for him. I haven't done anything except for maybe SCK his PP, but I pushed that on him and he made sure to not go any further," Francine said as the girls looked to him as he sighed. "Let's all just sit down and let me explain before more people start yelling," he said as Lisa nodded while he led them into the house. He was able to tell Linda of his situation and the others of what had happened with Francine and Linda, and thankfully Linda didn't seem to be weirded out by it too much and the others didn't seem to mind what they did, except for Hailey who looked like she was about to blow. "Seems like you care about everyone here, so it isn't like you are just adding girls to sleep around more," Linda said as Hailey slammed her hands down on the table angrily. "I don't care about Linda joining but my own mom." "What the hell?" Hailey yelled as Francine frowned and stood up. "Hailey, can we maybe talk alone about this?" Francine asked as she pulled Hailey away from the table. "Oh yeah, I forgot you were seeing Hailey, so this might be awkward," Linda said as he nodded with Lisa frowned. "While I wish we could have been warned before you did everything," Lisa said with a frown as he sighed. "Sorry everyone, but it was kind of a spur-of-the-moment thing," he said as Lisa, Janet and Lindsay giggled. "Foxy, relax. We know it's not like you can handle how you attract women," Tiffany teased him as she trailed her finger down his arm. He nodded while he couldn't help but worry how the talk between Francine and Hailey was going. Hailey's room. "Mom, seriously, what the hell? You cheat on Dad, which I honestly don't care about, but with my boyfriend of all people. Why the hell would you do that?" Hailey yelled as Francine frowned and sat on the foot of her bed. "Hailey, I don't know if you noticed, but your father isn't the most caring or sweet man, and a woman can only handle so much," Francine said as she clenched her fists. "I grew tired of watching you and Naruto constantly connect and love each other with more passion than I have had in my 20 years of marriage." Francine yelled as tears ran down her cheeks as she stood up and looked towards Hailey. "I didn't mean to fall in love with Naruto. Trust me, I tried to stop these feelings but I honestly couldn't and realized that I honestly want to be with him instead of your father," she said before she was surprised by Hailey wrapping her in a hug. "Mom, it's fine," Hailey said with a sigh as she rubbed her mother's back. I understand how you couldn't help but fall for him and I am sorry for not being more private about it, Hailey said as she ended with a blush from the fact her mother had watched them several times. I don't want to hurt you, Hailey, you're my daughter and I love you, so if you honestly don't want this to happen I guess I can hold it in, she said before Hailey shook her head. No, I can't make you do that. If you really love Naruto then be with him. I guess I can share him with you, but you have to keep it a secret from Dad as well as everyone else, she said as her mother got a massive smile while she hugged her. Oh Hailey, thank you so much for being okay with this, Francine cried out as Hailey smiled and hugged her. You're welcome Mom, we should probably head back to the kitchen to tell them everything is okay, Hailey said as her mom nodded. Oh, and a small word of warning, Naruto is a major but man will show it a lot of attention, so you might want to buy some lube to help. Trust me when I say you will need it, Hailey teased as her mother licked her lips with a smirk as they left her room. Oh trust me, I know from watching you two go at it so much. I'm sure I can handle it, Francine teased back as she gave her peach a light slap before heading back down the stairs, leaving a slightly shocked Hailey before she snapped out of it and followed after her mother. Is everything okay? Naruto asked as Francine sat next to him and Hailey sat back down at the table. Yes, but no ACC at our house, only at Naruto's house, Hailey said sternly, leaving no room for any argument. Francine frowned slightly as she nodded, but her head was already full of KNKY places for Naruto to take her around her house the next time she was home alone. I guess it is Francine and Linda's turn to officially join, Janet said as she giggled at the two elder women. I hope you can handle it, he gets wild in bed, she teased as they both blushed. Well, I want to wait until he takes me on a nice date before that happens, Linda said as Naruto smiled at her and kissed her cheek. That sounds great Linda, since I do still owe you for not taking you along to the gallery, he said as she smiled and leaned against him, and give him a quick embrace on the lips before pulling back. Francine smiled as she leaned against Naruto and rubbed his arm. She wanted to wait for a special occasion as well like Linda, but with everything that happened from the bathroom incident to Linda's intense embrace she doubted she could wait. Lisa smiled as she realized Francine's all too familiar, trying to hide that I am horny, look got up from her seat. Well, since we have everything all settled I think we can go back to what we were doing before, since I am sure my parents are confused why I hurried out of the house, she said as everyone nodded. Yeah, I do have to get back to studying since I have a test soon, Tiffany said as Hailey nodded. Naruto smiled as all of his girls gave him kisses as they left before Lisa pulled him in close to her. Be sure to give her a good time, she whispered before she gave him another embrace on the cheek and left, leaving only him, Francine, and Linda in the house. I am going to head home to tell Bob about what happened, she said as Naruto frowned. Will Bob be okay with all this? I mean, you are married, he said as she laughed with a smile. Naruto, Bob is gay. We are only married because we were forced into it. He is totally okay with me going after you just like I am fine with him trying to find a boyfriend, she said as he nodded, a little surprised by it. I never knew he was gay. Not that there is anything wrong with that honestly, just didn't realize it, Naruto said trying to fix things up, to which Linda couldn't help but chuckle. Yeah, I know, he took a few acting classes back in college to help cover things up socially, especially with his work in communications, she said as made her way to the door. So when would be fine for our date? Naruto asked as he opened it for her with a smile. Well, maybe later in the week since Bob's parents are coming over soon. I'll call you tomorrow to give you a basic idea when, since it's pretty late anyways right now as you can see, Linda said as she looked out and saw the sun fully set. Alright, let me know what time would work best. Alright, Naruto said as she nodded with a smile. Of course, good night Naruto, she said as she gave him another deep embrace as he put his hands on her peach and held her close as she enjoyed the embrace before heading home with a happy smile on her face. He smiled as he closed the door before Francine had him pressed against it and pressed her lips against his in a deep embrace as he felt her tongue enter his mouth. I'm sorry Naruto, but now that I can finally be with you I can't wait, Francine said in between her kisses before she trailed kisses down his jawline and all over his neck. If this is what you want, then I am more than happy to give it, he whispered into her ear and nibbled on her earlobe that caused her to softly before he picked her up in a princess carry, making sure to give her peach a soft squeeze. Oh, are we heading to the bedroom now? She asked as she moaned again from the feeling of the man she loved squeezing her peach. Of course, I have a gorgeous woman begging for me to connect to her, so I'm going to give her what she wants, he said as he kissed her neck and quickly made his way up the stairs as she let out a squeal of excitement as they quickly reached his bedroom. Naruto smiled as he laid Francine down on the bed gently as he looked into her happily smiling face. He was happy that at least at the moment she didn't look guilty or anything for what they are about to do. Which he felt she shouldn't anyway with the way Stan treats her. He was lucky she didn't leave him years ago. He slowly started to embrace her soft lips and made sure to savor their feeling with each time they touched. His hands slowly inched down her sides and wrapped around her narrow waist as he pulled her body close to his. Naruto smiled happily as he felt her arms wrap around his head and her hands run through his hair. She then pulled him closer to her, deepening the embrace as she tried to contest his tongue that had invaded her mouth with no success. Francine couldn't believe the amount of passion she was feeling right now. She hadn't felt like this in years. Stan in recent years had been so dull in bed, all he seemed to care about is himself and making sure she didn't have any more children. Her needs had not been met in a long time. But this was what she always wanted. With all the thrill, the passion, the intensity that had been missing. This is how making love should be, not a contest or a race to see who can finish first. Not like of how Stan treated their CC life as time passed. Francine let out a soft as she started to feel Naruto's hand slowly running up her legs. She felt his warm hand slide against the skin on her thighs as she wrapped her legs around his waist. She wanted him close to her, against her, inside her. And every glorious second of this was near unbearable till he was deep inside of her and making her beg for more. Naruto smirked as his hands slowly inched up her body while he felt her grind against him. He could tell how much she really wanted him. She was basically desperate to feel some real passion in her life, and Naruto was going to give it to her. She let out a soft whine as he stopped kissing her and moved his mouth close to her ear. Lift up your skirt. I want you to show me those CC underwear you put on. I want you to show me you want me to touch you in the way you dream to be touched. Naruto said in a breathful tone into her ear. He could hear her panting from the intensity of it all. Her breathing became even deeper as he started to nibble on her neck, kissing up down her soft slender neck. Francine loved the way Naruto was taking charge of her. It wasn't like with Stan where he would be overly aggressive and not really build the tension or pleasure for her. He would just care about getting himself off. Francine wanted to show Naruto how badly she wanted this, and as their makeout session went on she grew to want it even more. She slowly took her hands off of his broad back and moved them down to her dress. As she did this she didn't break eye contact with the man hovering over her as she slowly pulled her dress up higher and higher till it was up past her waist, revealing her white patties, which she knew were now becoming transparent from her arousal, dampening them with every action her new lover performed on her. Naruto absolutely loved the look of this 40-year-old MLF looking up at him with a shyness yet clear lust-filled look in her eyes as she hiked up her skirt, revealing her wet patties to him. He instantly wanted them to become even more wet. He wanted them to become completely dripping wet. He smiled as he moved to the side of her and ran his hand back up her now bare thighs before going up higher and higher till he was running his hand right on the rim of her patties and could feel her body spasm a little as he touched closer to her womanhood. He smirked as he took his hand and started to trail his fingers right on the middle of her patties, stroking her through them. He enjoyed the music of her loud moans as they left her mouth as her body jerked up from his feeling on her hungry womanhood. He kept stroking her as after left her mouth. His fingers became more and moister as he could feel how wet she was through the wet thin fabric protecting her PP. As he continued to pet her more he could see her patties becoming so wee he could see a clear outline of her womanhood through them. He smiled as he started to slide right on her lower lips with more force than he was before. He loved hearing her louder, even panting out his name every so often as he continued. After a while he started to see the clear bulge that was her swelling CLT through the now damp rag that once was her patties. He knew he couldn't leave it untouched as he was sure she suffered enough from her husband. Naruto smiled as he leaned over and started to embrace and lick her glistening neck as he moved his hand and started to slide her hardened CLT. Francine was slowly losing herself in the bliss as Naruto stimulated her lower half. Out of all the men she has been with, none has shown her body this kind of attention before. The feeling of his hands massaging and stroking on her PP was too good that it started to send her mind into a daze. All she could do was bite her bottom lip as after slipped from between them. She knew she wouldn't last long at this rate, she had gone far too long without real simulant, and to be on the receiving end of so much right now was too much for her. Oh Naruto. I am close. Please more, give me more. I am about to leak. Francine yelled out without any shame. At this point she didn't care about anything besides keeping this feeling going for as long as she could. Smiling as he knew she wouldn't last but a few more minutes, Naruto started to probe her PP through her patties. The slight sounds of the wet cloth working its way inside her was a major turn-on for him as he pushed the first knuckle of his finger inside of her. He then used it to massage around inner side of her. The way her PP seemed to try and draw him in deeper made him know that she really wanted more in of her. He smirked as he traced the entrance to her wet flower over and over using his thumb to keep rubbing her strong CLT. Why yes. That is it. I am leaking Naruto. SHT. I am leaking, was all Francine was able to say as she arched her back and curled her toes as she felt a torrent of juices and PSS flow out of her. She couldn't believe that she was brought to a SQR from feeling another man besides her husband touch her. She never did that even when her husband touched her. This felt so much better than anything she has ever felt before. Naruto couldn't help but feel proud as he looked at the panting, wet older woman lying on his bed and loved the sight of her half-closed eyes with a puddle slowly forming under her. He could still see through her wet patties as her PP twitching from its release. He smiled as he went down to her lower half and gripped the rim of her patties before he lifted her legs in the air and slowly pulled them off of her. He was blessed with the sight of Francine's glorious pages. It had full puffy lips, a slightly hooded but clearly irked CLT, and a patch of brown public hair over top of it, with clear liquid pouring from it from her recent release running right down her thighs. After feeling herself leaked, she felt satisfied after so long after repressing herself in her unsatisfied marriage with Stan. Of course this was only just the start, the appetizer, and now she knew she was going to be entering the main course. She looked up at the man that made her feel this good and she saw him leaning over her with her wet patties in his hand as he leaned down and kissed her, which she returned fully as she couldn't get enough of his taste on her lips. She gave off a whimper when he broke the embrace, but he kept a grin on his face that sent a shiver up her spine. She then saw him hold up her patties and use his hands to open them up and show how the crotch was dripping wet and the large amount of her juices on them. She bit her lip as she saw him lower it down to right in front of her face. Lick it. Lick your dirty patties, Francine. I want you to taste the arousal a man other than your husband has given you. Naruto said with a cocky smirk to clearly to drive home the point. He wanted her to accept what she is doing, to know what she was doing, and also to be aroused by all of it, even the taboo of it. Francine blushed as she saw just how wet her patties were. She looked and saw that they are even dripping from when she squirted into them. She bit her lip again as she thought about what he said. She had tasted herself before even though it has been a while since. It was the fact this person made her orgasm harder than ever before right now wasn't the man she took her vows with. But the man she married never made her feel like this, never gave her this kind of pleasure, never made her feel this loved. She looked at her patties, those were the evidence that she enjoyed Naruto more than Stan. And she was told to embrace it and savor it, which she wanted to do wholeheartedly as she felt so complete with him. Francine leaned her head up and instantly smelled the strong smell of her PP and arousal coming off of her patties and couldn't help get turned on even more. Knowing she was about to do something so dirty, she opened her mouth and hung her tongue from it and slowly inched her tongue closer and closer to them till she finally made contact with them. She quivered as she ran her tongue up from one end of the crotch of her patties to the other. Her taste was drowned in the taste of her own pleasure, the pleasure of this other man has given her. This thought caused her to lick at a faster pace. Almost like a dog, as she lapped at her patties and couldn't get enough of her own taste. Naruto saw this and wanted to make sure she got all she wanted as he took her patties and gently put them in her mouth. Since you can't get enough of the taste of your naughty PPSCK on those while I enjoy your CCMLF of a body more. Naruto told her as he saw her eyes gloss over as she did what he said and started to SCK on the patties that were now in her mouth. Naruto then took his hands and spread her legs nice and wide as he took off his pants and boxers. Francine stopped basking in the taste of her own SEC for a moment to look at Naruto's huge urchin. This wasn't her first time looking at it as she had seen it before and even tasted it, but seeing it now where she knows it is going to fill her PP made it seem in a whole new light. It looked longer, thicker, more intimidating as well as alluring. She felt Naruto grip her peach and pull her closer to him before he took the head of his and started to run it against her wet PP lips. He smiled as he held her in place as they tried to spasm under the STMLTN of his hot tool touching her already sensitive lips. I want to hear you say it. Say it with your own soiled patties in your mouth that you want to me claim you, to F you, to do things to you that you never dreamed of. To make you and your mind and your body forget all about Stan. Say it and I will F you till you can't see straight. Naruto told her as he kept grinding against her. He made sure he flicked his head against her swollen CLT each time, making her spasm every time. "FMME, please," she yelled out as best as she could with her wet patties in her mouth. "Come on, you can do it, yell past your juicy soaked patties," he whispered out as she somehow used her tongue to push the patties aside while they were still in her mouth. "Please F me. I want it. Give me that hearse cuck of yours," she moaned out as best as she could with her partially gagged before he stroked her cheek while her patties filled her mouth again. "Good, besides I think you've waited long enough," he whispered out as she vigorously nodded as he slid his hands down to squeeze her peach to get a better grip on her. He slowly slid right into her, inch by inch expanding her velvety walls, getting Francine hitch her breath despite her being ged. She let out a quivering through her patties as she felt him push through her. The sensation was so good that she kept on lapping and eating the patties more and more. He smiled as he slowly started thrusting in and out of her PP to draw out the sensation for her. He knew she had a past with men and had even given BRTH to 2 children, but she still felt so tight as her insides almost didn't want to let him go. "Francine, you really want me and you don't you?" he asked as she moaned and nodded her head slowly as he thrusted back into her, getting her again and again with each time their pelvis met. She was practically in heaven now, feeling so filled after so long, and she wanted more of this glorious feeling. She quickly wrapped her legs around his waist as he smiled and gave her peach another strong squeeze. Francine's eyes rolled back into her head as she felt him hit her core repeatedly before. It almost seemed to open for him before all 12 inches of his PP rammed into her and hit the very end of her womb, making her eyes go completely back, lost in the sea of lust. "Naruto," she panted out as her patties fell half out of her mouth from the loud she let out. "God, please F me more," she moaned as drool dribbled out of her mouth. Naruto grinned as he lifted Francine up and put her on her hands and knees, making sure not to pull out of her. Francine almost came again just from being put into this position after feeling her insides churn, since she always loved being F from behind, but Stan never did her like this. Naruto then gripped her peach nice and tight, which got a loud from the woman he was currently kissing her womb with his PP. He then started to pump inside of her over and over, with the full intent to reshape her insides to forget ever having children or her husband's PP and to only be fit for his strong PP. "Tell me, Francine, who F you better, me or Stan? Whose PP feels better inside of you? Who owns this body of yours? Who is it you want to flood your womb now with his hot juices and get you PRGNNT?" Naruto asked her as he knew it was a gambit, seeing how bringing up her husband might turn her off, but he wanted her to be his now. He wanted her to crave him from this point onward, and he was going to F her till she admitted what she wanted. D.as.sk me chat please. Francine pants out. She has never been F his deep or this strong before in her entire life. Naruto's horse-like PP was stroking against her the inside of her womb each time he bottomed out inside of her, and it felt so good. She knew what the answers to his questions would be if she was forced to answer, and if she did nothing could go back to being the same. Well, if you won't admit at all, I think some persuasion is in order, he said as he brought his hand up and smacked her peach strong, getting her to yelp in surprise before she started to harder. Seeing that she responded much like her daughter, he struck her plump jiggling peach again with slightly more force to it. He knew she was enjoying it by the way her PP clamped down every time he spanked the luscious peach of hers. Every time you don't answer I will spank you again. So once again I'm going to ask you again. Who? Naruto said as he slapped her peach again, getting Francine to bite her lower lip. He kept on slapping her peach more and more, and she couldn't take it. And Naruto, please don't make me answer. Francine pleads, feeling herself leak on the long strong raw PP still pumping inside of her through her orgasm. She never knew she would enjoy being spanked so much, but it made her feel so alive, so naughty, it pushed her to the edge every time his hand came down on her now reddening peach. She was then greeted by more strikes to her peach. She felt herself leak again. She has lost track of how many times she came and relieved herself on him, and still he doesn't stop. In fact, she felt him going even harder and deeper inside of her. Francine could feel her mind going blank, and all she can think about if the feeling of this young man less than half her age her married PP raw with seeming every intent to leak so deep inside her she wouldn't be shocked if she ended up pregnant with his child. Which as of right now none of that mattered compared to the need of wanting him to keep her and spanking her peach. I'm asking you again, Francine. Who? Naruto demanded as he kept on slapping her peach every time he asked. That got her at her breaking point, and he knew just the thing that would push her over it if she was anything like her daughter. Naruto then took his other hand and used the leak from her PP to lube up his fingers and pushed two of them inside her winking peach in one strong push. He then started to vigorously pump his fingers into her tight peach while he spanked her red peach cheeks. The whole time he just kept pumping his strong PP inside her wrecked PP all at once. You. It's all you, Naruto. Please keep spanking my peach. Keep hitting me strong, I need this. Francine finally caving in and relenting to his demands. Me what? Say it. Say what I am. Say I am a better lover than your husband, say that you're made for my strong PP now, say you want my kids as I you, say that it is my juices you're hungry for now. I want you to admit and confess as I am ball deep inside you, reshaping your PP for my thick PP, that you are mine. If you do that I will you, he said before he leaned in to whisper in her ear. The same way I do Hailey and the other girls. Wouldn't you like that, to be just like a 20-year-old? To scream at the top of your lungs as you leak over and over. To feel every hole you have drowned in hot juices. If you say it. Naruto said as he thrusted strong into her with his PP and jammed her fingers inside of her peach. Yes. Yes to it all. You are better than anyone else I have ever been with, better than stand by miles on end. I was practically born to be your juice dump and hungry for your stallion PP. I want you to reshape everything inside of me and mark me as yours. I must have you and only you, Naruto. Francine screamed out as she felt everything at once as her body spasmed in the biggest orgasm she ever had in her life, breaking her mind in the process. As she experienced the most amazing orgasm she ever felt while confessing her love of another man's PP, Naruto himself found his peak and pumped into her harder, going as far back inside of her as he could and came as deep inside of her as he could, while he saw Francine gasp for air and move her peach back, impaling herself on him to receive as much of his seed inside of her as she could. Once their orgasms died down, Naruto slowly pulled out of her, making sure Francine watched as his juices-covered PP came out of her ruined pages. Thinking they are done, Francine falls on the bed, laying on her stomach, panting, feeling her new adulter of a lover's seed pouring out of her. Wanting to keep this SXL high a bit longer, she weakly crawled over to Naruto's PP and started lapping up their mixed juices before she slowly took his PP hole into her mouth. He groaned, feeling this sensation of his sore irkton. "Get my PP clean and wet and I will give you a reward you will really enjoy," Naruto told her as he put his hand on top of her head to help her go deeper down on his pages. While he leaned over her and reached for with her swngng peach in the air, and to her shock he started to finger her tight peach again. I can definitely see where Hailey got her skills from, but you have no trouble swallowing all of my PP, he said as she didn't respond at all, with all of her attention is towards his PP. Once he felt she had savored his PP for long enough, he pulled out of her mouth to see her pout and look up at him, wonder why he stopped before he then went to the other side of the bed and laid down with his strong PP sticking up in the air, silently telling her to get on. Francine almost scurried over and tried to impale her juices-filled PP back on his PP before he gripped her peach tight to stop her from going down. "Oh no, Francine, this time I am going to F your tight little peach as I spank it. But you will be the one to lower yourself down on it. You will use my PP to F your tight peach as you PP pours juices out of it. But that will only happen if you beg. Beg to be F in your tight peach, the same way I do Hailey. She loves to have her tight peach F, and if you want to feel the same pleasure, passion, joy, rush that she feels, you will beg to be F up your naughty peach the same way your daughter likes it," Naruto told her with a serious face, seeing the shocked look on Francine's as it was clear she didn't see this coming. But I've never done it there before. I don't know if it'll fit all of it," she said in worry, since she had never done anal. Well, that is very interesting to hear, my dear. Seems Hailey really takes more from you than we all thought. Don't worry, we'll take time for you to adjust all of me," he said as he saw her nod and slowly lower herself until she felt his hands on her sore rear. You need permission now, Francine, to use my PP to satisfy your needs. Now beg for it, Naruto said as he lowered her towards his lower head and brushing it against her tight peach. She could feel the heat and the wetness from her eating him moments early against it. Even if she was nervous of taking something so long and thick inside her, she could feel her peach start to wink and twitch, almost begging to be filled by this young stallion's PP. "Please Naruto, I want you to take my anal virginity and wreck my peach," Francine said as she turned around and brought her hands to her peach cheeks and spread them to show her lover her spasming hole. "Like who though? If you want it you have to say who you want to be F like. I want to hear you say which HRM sister you want to have your tight peach F like. I want you to say you want to be F just like Hailey, like your daughter. I want you to beg to and scream like you, feel the same pleasure she feels when she took my strong PP in her tight peach till I flooded it with my juices," he told her as he let her go a little lower down till her tight peach was being prodded by the hot head of his PP. I want to be like my daughter. I want you to F me like Hailey. I want to feel the exact feeling you gave her when I spied on you all those weeks ago," the blonde woman said as she went to her PP for a moment to grab some of dripping juices with his seed and put it over her spasming peach to lube it up. Naruto grinned as he finally got his MLF of a lover to beg to be F like her daughter. He then let go of her peach and put his hands on her peach, only providing support. He gave her a nod to let her know she can now start to lower herself down and use his strong PP to F herself in her peach for the first time. Once having him invade her inch by inch was too good for words to describe that it was nothing she had ever experienced. His PP was spreading and stretching her out more and more and was nearly too much to bear. After waiting for a moment to fully adjust, she had started to lift her peach up before bringing it back down. It felt too good as the pleasure coursed through her body, and she didn't want to stop as her peach started to get a mind of its own, moving up and down his meaty pole. He enjoyed seeing Francine panting with her hair a mess from sweat as she put her hands on his chest to brace herself as she pumped her own peach to F herself in the peach. Wanting to get more of a response out of her, he leaned up, making her drop her whole weight on his PP, forcing it deeper than she had driven it herself as he started to embrace and SCK on her neck, using one hand to reach towards her melons to massage one and its strong NPL. The whole time this is going on, he used his other hand to spank her peach. Every time he felt her slow her speed, he would spank her even harder, making her jump up and force him in deep against, hollowing out her once tight peach. Of course he wanted to see her face and reactions of her going down his pole, so he decided to stop Francine from going down on him for a moment. This of course made her turn her head to see Naruto twirl his finger around, and she weakly nodded her head before he went back down. She then started going down again before in one move of turning herself around. This got her to feel him churn inside of her rectum before she was fully facing Naruto in her glistening, naked glory. Oh god, yes. Fuck me. Keep going into my naughty peach. It feels so good. I'll love you. Only you and your PP will ever go inside me again. I want to feel you leak in me over and over and wash out my insides. I am leaking. I'm leaking from being F in my peach. I am such a salty wife and mother, and I love it. Francine shouted at the top of her lungs. She knew what she said was true. She was a bad wife for having another man's juices flooding her PP as well as plundering her tight peach to the point she knew she wouldn't be able to sit right for quite some time. But even more so, she was a woman that hasn't felt truly loved, cared for, passion, or anything true care in a long time, and now she had that with the young man making love to her whole body at this moment. And that is all she cared about right now. That is right, Francine. You are mine now, and I will pleasure your body from this on day forward. Your CC mouth, peach, BRST, and PP, I will make sure every part of you feel true bliss. And I will make sure you have more of my hot juices inside you than you will know what to do with. Because from this moment onward you aren't Francine, Stan's wife, you are Francine, who is also my lover. Naruto told her as he looked into her eyes the whole time as she was panting, but he makes sure to convey all the love and feelings he meant in his words, and if her glazed over lust-filled eyes showed right, she felt the same love he did. He smiled as he kissed her lips passionately and gripped her peach and started to pump her himself on his strong PP. This had the effect he wanted. As soon after that she had to break the embrace to throw her head back as she had the largest orgasm of her life. OF. Naruto, I am leaking again. You're making me leak from my peach while you fill it up with your hot juices, she yelled out as she covered Naruto in her juices much like she did when she squirted on him earlier before. At the same time she felt Naruto twitching PP finally release and shot a massive bursts of his juices which felt like molten lava deep inside her peach. He kept pumping inside her now loose peach as she felt his juices build up in her peach, knowing it will pour out the second he pulled out of her tight peach. Everything went black during Francine's orgasm as she fell limply into his arms with his PP still strong and still plunged deep inside her peach. Naruto smiled as he kissed her forehead and decided to let her rest, but the second she woke up they would go right back at it since he hasn't had enough of his CCMLF for the night by a long shot. After the long night of vigorous SEC, after she had woken up after passing out for the third time that night, the two were tired and in each other's arms. Naruto had a few things that were on his mind that he wanted to voice earlier but kept them since he didn't want to break the mood, but now as they were relaxing he could finally ask. So Francine, I take it you aren't a natural blonde, Naruto commented as Francine gave out a tired sigh. Why, you noticed? She asked as he nodded. Yeah, I'm actually a brunette. I started dyeing my hair when I was back in the orphanage and have been doing so ever since, she commented. Maybe you should change it back. Naruto said, chuckling as he imagined her with chocolate brown hair. But what if Stan notices the change and demands I change it back? Francine said worriedly. Well, I don't know if a wig would do you justice for covering up your nice and silky hair, he commented, making her hum in pleasure as he was raking her hair with his fingers. But if he doesn't like it then I say he can go F himself since it is your hair, he said as she giggled softly. You know what I could go for? Francine said, turning to Naruto. What? Naruto asked curiously as Francine licked her lips. Some muffins and a side of Naruto's baby batter to go. Francine said huskily before diving at him, starting another love-making session that would last all the way till the sun rises. Langley Falls Shopping Mall. This mall disgusts me. It's built on sacred land once ruled by proud indigenous people, and what do we reduce them to? Chief shopaholic Hailey said in exhaustion as she pointed to the large purple-tinted, see-through statue of an Indian chief holding shopping bags while it told everyone about a discount on TVs. What kind of idiot would buy the materialistic CRP that they sell here? Hailey complained as Naruto rubbed her back to calm her down as he, Hailey. Francine and Steve stood in front of one of the mall's many stores. I think I have an idea of who, Naruto said with a sigh before Stan walked out of the store towards them excitedly. Look at all this cool stuff. A glow-in-the-dark rake, a money suit, a Flava Flav clock and a cool robot frog that does cool stuff when you speak Taiwanese, Stan said as he spoke a random Taiwanese phrase to make the frog kick its legs. Stan, while it is great the CIA gave you a $20,000 bonus for a most at basic testimony to Congress, but at this rate it will be gone in no time, Francine said with a frown as Stan's wastefulness was getting to her before she held in a soft as she felt Naruto's hand on her back, which eventually went down and groped her peach. It had been a week since she had officially started having an affair with Naruto, and she had been loving every second of it. She had made love to him numerous times whenever Stan was off at work or when he was just ignoring her as usual. Hey, if I don't buy all this CRP the terrorists win. And don't tell me it's not a competition because it so is, Stan said as everyone rolled their eyes at him. Thank goodness you don't have this kind of money all the time, or I could just picture your house being full of useless junk, Naruto said as even with how rich he was he didn't go around buying useless CRP. He spent it on things he, or people close to him needed. The only splurge item he really bought since being a freelance agent was his Lamborghini, and even that he used for his job. Isn't that right, Francine? He asked as he turned to see her staring at a kiosk that was for sale. You okay, Francine? He asked as she nodded. Yeah, I've just always wanted a kiosk, I could just never seem to raise the money, she said with a frown as she thought back to the time she tried to raise the funds. Dad, I'm going to the movies with the guys, can I have some money for popcorn? Steve asked as Stan scoffed at him. No. Does it look like I'm made of money? Stan asked as Hailey groaned loudly. I'm going for a walk in the forest out back. When you're done with this soulless materialism you can text me, she said as she pulled out her phone and started typing on it. You want me to leak with you, Hailey? Naruto asked while walking up to her. No, you don't have to, stay here with Mom or something. See you in a bit. Hailey asked, wanting to be alone for a while. Before she left she gave Naruto a quick embrace on the lips before leaving. Okay, but be safe, I think Kurama is wandering around out there since we did bring him with, he said as Hailey nodded and gave him a wave before wandering off. Steve, you don't need popcorn, I made you some muffins, Francine said as he walked back to them. Cool, your muffins are the best. I can sell them to my friends and buy popcorn, Steve said as he ran off to the movie theater. Your friends would pay money for my muffins? Francine said, confused until a light bulb went off as she grew a smile. That's it. People would pay money for my muffins, and there is an available kiosk, she said before she looked toward Stan, since she felt terrible asking Naruto for the money. All I need is someone with a little startup money who believes in me, Francine said as Stan slung his arm over her shoulder. Francine, you know what I'm going to do? Stan said as Francine's eyes lit up. I'm going to wear my money suit to your grand opening when you find that someone who believes in you, he said before he walked off into another store while she frowned and looked longingly towards the kiosk. It can't be too much to start it up, why don't we go take a look? Naruto asked as he rubbed Francine's back with a smile as she blushed and looked up at him. But to make you spend money on me makes me feel like I'm taking advantage of you, she said sadly before he chuckled and gave her a quick embrace on the cheek. Francine, I want to support all my girls with their dreams, and I believe you can make it since your muffins are delicious, he said with a smile as he held her hand and gave it a soft squeeze. Come on, let's go see when we can get your business started, he said as she nodded with a smile and let him guide her along to the kiosk so they could fill out some of the paperwork to get them started. Hailey. Hailey sighed as she walked through the forest outside of the mall with a frown as the thought of it being torn down for a mall made her feel terrible since she had always loved nature and the peace it gave her. She was thankful she fell in love with someone like Naruto who was willing to use his money to help the environment and protect nature. Kurama, you out here? She asked as she went deeper into the forest only to barely able to avoid being trampled on by a stampede of forest animals as she had been pushed out of the way by something. Hailey? Are you okay, girlie? Kurama asked as he ran out of the forest and frowned as he saw her on the ground as more animals ran out of the forest. Yeah, I'm fine, thanks for saving me, she said as Kurama raised a brow at her. I didn't save you, I just got here as I rushed over when I felt your fear, Kurama said as a soft melodic laugh filled the small clearing they were in. That would be me that saved you, dear, a feminine voice spoke out as they both turned to see a wolf walk out from behind the trees. The wolf was a little bit bigger than Kurama with brownish gold fur on its back with a white snout and underbelly as its puffy tail flickered behind it as its red eyes stared down at them. Kurama instantly recognized what the wolf was, a spirit like Amaterasu and himself, but felt different than them, he just couldn't put his paw on it. You saved me? Hailey asked as Kurama moved in front of her and spread out his tails protectively. Yes, I did. You seem to be enjoying my forest and I wouldn't want you to get hurt by accident by those scared little animals, the wolf said before it turned to Kurama. Though I am surprised to see another spirit in this world. I had thought they all were faded, she said as Kurama realized what had felt off about her. You're fading, aren't you? This forest is your bond and it's being destroyed, he said as the wolf nodded. Yes, Horo the wise wolf is fading because of the idiotic humans' decisions and their greed, and I am too weak to fend them off like I used to, the wolf now named Horo said as she sat down in the clearing before she looked towards Hailey, but I feel so much warmth from this girl, she cares for nature, do you not? Horo said as Hailey stared at it in shock. No, you are not bonding with this girl. She is under my protection and will not be affected by a spirit's wants, he said as Horo chuckled and stood up. Oh, so it must be her mate since I don't smell a bond on her, but I am not dangerous to humans when I bond, she said as Hailey stood up. What would happen if I bonded with you? Hailey asked as she felt a warm feeling from the spirit in front of her, the same kind she got when she relaxed in a forest. I am not too beneficial, but at the same time I am not harmful. You would gain a protector in me, and the only thing I ask in return would be a place to plant my apple tree since they destroyed my old sacred 1 inch, she said as Hailey rose an eyebrow. What's so special about this apple tree? Hailey asked with genuine confusion. It is pure fruit, unlike how humans nowadays put so many chemicals in their food. These apples that grow from my tree are unaffected by anything. They will bear apples all year long and the tree will never falter when I am back to full strength as my old one died from them weakening my forest first, Horo said as she walked off and grabbed a small cloth bag with her paw from a nearby tree hollow and handed it to Hailey. It is also a focal point for me to use to appear in the human world, and without it appearing before you is more difficult. Inside are 7 seeds, when you return to your domicile plant all of them in somewhere safe and our bond will be made. If you agree to it all, Horo said as Hailey picked up the bag that Horo had dropped at her feet. Hailey was about to reply before Horo faded away, leaving her and Kurama in the clearing. Did she die? She asked as Kurama shook his head and sniffed the bag. No, she went into hibernation to conserve her energy since materializing, even for a few minutes, takes a lot of power to do when your bond is dying, Kurama said as he stood up. Come on, we should probably find Naruto and get his thoughts on this, he said as Hailey nodded. You don't think he'd be against this, will he? Because I honestly want to help her, Hailey said as Kurama chuckled. The kid will be fine with it, most likely wanting to help as well, but we need to make sure Horo doesn't harm you in the bond, Kurama said as they headed back to the mall as Hailey held the bag tightly in her hand. Langley Fall Mall. Naruto smiled as he helped Francine finish up her paperwork for her new kiosk as she was excited to finally being able to achieve her dream. Naruto, thank you so much for this. I promise you I will pay you back, Francine said as she hugged him tightly and kissed him lovingly as they were all alone in the office of the mall manager. You are welcome, Francine, but you don't have to pay me back. I am just happy to help you, he said as he kissed her back lovingly before she pulled back as the manager returned with a smile as he handed her a key. There is the key to the kiosk, you can start your business whenever you wish. We are happy to have your business in our mall, the manager said as Francine smiled and accepted the key with a squeal before they exited the office. I can't wait until I can start. I can finally start my business like I've always wanted, Francine said as she hugged his arm while they walked through the mall. I can try and ask some of the girls if they want to help as well since I'm going to help as well, who knows, you might even get your daughter to help out, he said as she smiled happily and kissed his cheek repeatedly. You are so sweet, Naruto, I swear, but you seriously don't have to help me with it, you already did so much by giving me the startup money, she said as he chuckled and stroked her cheek. Francine, I want to be there and help you as much as I can since I know you will need the help, he said as he kissed her again until they heard a throat clear behind them. As much as I don't mind you kissing my mom, you might want to be careful where you do it, Hailey teased as they broke apart with soft blushes on their cheeks. Ah, well, you're right about that, sorry. Naruto said sheepishly as he forgot where they were. Hailey, what are you doing back so early? Francine asked curiously. About that, I need to talk to you two in private real quick. Hailey said as she dragged Naruto and Francine along until they were outside the mall. Once they were out, Naruto noticed Kurama sitting on the hood of his car and Stan's car gone as they had parked next to each other. Besides Stan ditching Francine here, what's wrong? He asked as Kurama huffed. We found another spirit that wants to bond to Hailey. We can talk about it on the way home since if we make a choice it needs to be there, Kurama said as Naruto frowned but nodded as Hailey went into the back seat and Francine sat up front as she couldn't help but think about running her kiosk. Francine knew her first day was going to have to be tomorrow since she still had so many things to set up. From her recipes to the amount she'd need to make, her mind was racing with plans until she was snapped out of it as she felt a hand on her thigh. Francine, you okay there? You were zoning out for a bit there, Naruto said as she blushed and smiled at him. Yeah, I am just so excited for tomorrow to finally run my kiosk. Francine said with a squeal as Hailey raised an eyebrow at the two. Wait, you bought one of those kiosks? Did Dad actually pay for it or did you steal the money from him? Hailey asked as Francine shook her head. Neither, Naruto was very generous and bought it for me without me even having to ask. He was so sweet that I almost feel bad making him buy it for me, she said as she felt his hand slide her thigh, which made her bite her lip lightly. Well, he is a sweetie like that. He paid for my college fees nearly the second he found out I was in debt. How are you going to thank him for it? 'Cause he loves to be thanked, Hailey said as Francine smirked back at her. Well, I do have a French-made outfit I have been saving for a rainy day, Francine whispered back to Hailey as she blushed dark red and smiled. He'll love that, Hailey said as the two laughed a bit as Naruto rose an eyebrow at the two as they whispered back and forth the entire drive back to his house. He let it be since it was probably a private mother/daughter conversation. Are you sure you don't want me to drive you home? He asked as Francine shook her head with a smile. I am sure since I am just going there to pick up some ingredients for my muffins since your kitchen is so much better than mine. Plus I need to pick some other things up that are surprises for you for later, she said as she whispered out the last part in a sultry tone before kissing him deeply. Naruto smiled as he kissed her back and gave her peach a quick spank that made her break the embrace and let out a quivering mmm as she stared at Hailey, who was smirking at the two of them. He smiled as Francine backed away embarrassed from Hailey staring before he then grabbed Hailey and brought her close to him, which made her squeak in surprise. And Naruto, she squeaked out in between her moans as her face went dark red from having her peach groped and lightly spanked in front of her mother. I wanted to show both of my girls the love they deserve, he whispered out as Hailey bit her lip as he kissed her neck and massaged her peach in his hands. Hailey loved having her peach played with, but right now she swore it felt 100 times better as she realized her mother was staring at them with a blush. Naruto, not now, Hailey moaned out as Naruto smirked. Why? Embarrassed by your mother watching? It wouldn't be the first time she spied on us since she seems to like doing that, he said as Francine blushed and slapped his arm in embarrassment. Why, you're not supposed to tell her that, Francine stuttered out before she hurried to the door. I'll be back, she said before she left the house as Naruto chuckled. You are so fun to tease, Naruto said as he gave Hailey a deep embrace that she returned before she slapped his chest with a pout. JRK, Hailey said with a playful pout as a soft blush covered her cheeks. You love me, he teased as she giggled as she wiggled out of his arms. Still, we need to take care of the spirit business since that is why we rushed home, Hailey said as she pulled the cloth bag from her pocket. True, kind of forgot about it. So tell me what exactly happened at the mall, he said as she nodded as they sat down in the kitchen while Hailey recalled the events of the forest as Naruto took a look at the 7 seeds that were in the bag. Interesting. I didn't know there were spirits already in the world. Though I don't think this Horo spirit is malicious in any way. Most spirits aren't dangerous, and even with Kurama's effects on me are only the way they are because he is a very strong spirit, he said as Hailey nodded. So you think we should plant it? Because I feel really bad for her, she seemed really sad that her forest was being destroyed, Hailey said as he nodded and put the seeds in Hailey's hand. It's your final say, Hailey. These seeds are yours so you can do whatever with them. Just plant them in a good location so they could stay safe, Naruto said, to which she smiled. Well, I had made up my mind, but I was wondering if I could plant them in your backyard. It has a lot of space anyways, so it wouldn't take up much space, I think. Besides, I have an odd guess Dad would chop down the tree if I planted it at home for some stupid reason, she said as he chuckled and nodded. Go ahead, I have no problem with it since it would be very safe here and it would keep all of our spirits so far together, he said as Hailey kissed his cheek happily before rushing outside. Kurama, can you go keep an eye on things with her just in case something happens, he asked as the 9-tailed fox nodded as he stood up and stretched as his tail spread out. I was already going to kid, this Horo interests me, Kurama said as Naruto chuckled. I bet she does, you perv, he said as Kurama laughed and followed after Hailey. Naruto watched from the kitchen as Hailey dug up a small hole in the backyard before she poured them in and covered them. He was shocked as the ground shook slightly and a tree sprout came out shortly after. Soon it turned into a massive tree that was as tall as his house and pretty wide, burst from the ground as Hailey fell back on her peach. Whoa! Are you okay, Hailey? He asked as he helped Hailey back onto her feet. Hailey nodded as she stood back up shakily and stared up at the massive tree that was full of ruby red apples. I just wasn't expecting it to be so big so quickly. Maybe I should have planted them separately, she said as Naruto nodded. No, it is best that you kept them together, a voice spoke out as a wolf exited from the trunk of the tree. Horo. That was fast, but you still seem a bit weak, Hailey said as Horo nodded. While the seeds have been planted and my bond is renewed through you, Hailey Smith, it will take a while before I am at full strength. Much like the fox behind you, Horo said as Kurama nodded. Well, Horo, nice to meet you. I am Naruto Uzumaki and I am Hailey's lover, Naruto said as Horo looked up at him with a smile or a wolf's equivalent of one. Nice to meet you too, Naruto, I can figure you must be why she was able to see me, Horo said as he nodded. Yeah, she and all my other girls have their eyes open. Come inside so you can get settled, he said as Horo nodded with another smile. Why thank you, Horo said as she followed him and Hailey before sending a wink towards Kurama that made him chuckle and followed them as well. Next day. Naruto chuckled as he watched Francine keep up with the flow of customers as he worked to help her, as today was officially her first day of opening her business. He was impressed at how she was able to handle it all. For what Francine was wearing as her work uniform was a baby blue apron with a little muffin hat in matching colors to make it cute for her, while Naruto was just wearing the apron for the job. 2 banana muffins. Francine called out as he quickly grabbed them and handed to her as she smiled at him as she continued helping the customers. Thank you, Naruto, but you really didn't have to help, it makes me feel like I'm taking advantage of you, she said as he stood next to her and rubbed her thigh from behind the counter. You are welcome, and of course I would help you. I want to do everything I can to help you succeed, he said as she sent him a playful glare as his head got closer to her patties before he backed away with a smirk. Francine. What is this? Stan yelled as he pushed his way to the front of the line as Naruto noticed he wore a red rocket boot on his foot. This is my business, Stan. I was able to get the startup money, Francine said with a smile as she pushed him to the side so she could serve another customer. So that's where my $5,000 went. Stan yelled as Naruto cleared his throat. That would be me, though it wasn't your money as it was mine that she used, Naruto said as Stan glared at him, though if I had to guess you lost track of how much you were spending before trying to buy those boots. Whatever, you shouldn't have gone through with this without my approval. Stan yelled as he slammed his booted foot down before the rocket boot turned on him as if it had a mind of its own and sent Stan through a cactus store that also was having a sale on razor blades and lemon juice fountains. Naruto couldn't help but smile as he found Francine's laugh angelic as he leaned towards her and kissed her cheek. You have such a appealing laugh, you know, he said as she blushed and smiled as he slid his hands down her back and gave her peach a soft squeeze and started to massage it as she had to bit her lip to hold back her moans as she continued to serve customers. Naruto, please not now. Wait until we get home, she moaned out softly as he chuckled and kissed her cheek again just as Stan limped back to the kiosk. Francine. What are you doing accepting money from someone else? Stan yelled as Francine glared at him. Well, I had to because my husband, the man who is supposed to support me, basically told me to screw myself when I asked him if he could put aside $5,000 of his $20,000 bonus for something that has gotten me my investment in the first day, she yelled as she pulled out $5,000 from the register. Speaking of money, here is your money back, Naruto. Keep it, think of it as a gift, and I don't expect you to pay me back on a gift, he said as Francine smiled sweetly at him before she turned to Stan. Leave now before you ruin my good mood. We can talk about this later, she yelled as Stan glared back but stopped once Francine's glare grew angrier and he left the mall. Calm down, Francine, take a breather and relax. I can take care of the customers, he said as he rubbed her shoulders and kissed the back of her head. No, I'm fine. It helps me get my mind off of it, she said as she squeezed his hand as it sat on her shoulder before she smiled. Well, we should get back to the customers now, Francine, he said as she nodded and continued through the day until they were able to finish off the day and sell all of her muffins that she had made. Next day. Naruto smiled as he helped Francine open up the kiosk to try and cheer her up after last night. She had gotten into a rather large fight with Stan about the kiosk and how her money she earned was hers only after he tried to take some of her earnings from her lockbox. Of course, after hearing that he helped drive her down to the bank to open up another account that only she could access with him as a shared member on it, while he put a hefty amount of money for her in case of anything sudden happening that might require her to have some money to pay it off. Though after Francine told Stan that she had opened the account had gotten even angrier, so Naruto let her stay at his house until Stan calmed down. Hailey was even here today as she decided to help out her mom so she could spend some time to bond with her mom, and because even if she was having her college expenses paid for, it was always best to have a stable job since she felt bad relying solely on Naruto. So this probably got her the wake-up call that she needed to get a job, even if it was a temporary one. Relax, Francine, you know Stan is just an idiot and will calm down eventually, he said as he helped set the muffins down in the display cases as Horo laid behind the counter as she had wanted to stay close to Hailey due to their brand new bond, though had assured them that no one could see her. I know, but he just annoys me so much, Francine groaned out as he kissed her softly as they were both crouched behind the counter to put some more muffins in the display case before he stood up and gave Hailey a soft embrace as well. I know Stan annoys you, I'm pretty sure he does that to everyone, but you just can't let him ruin your mood, he said as Hailey nodded. Plus, with it being in the middle of summer, Dad just lets the heat get to his head, Hailey said as she forgot it was the beginning of summer and how it was only just her, Tiffany, and her mom in the house with everyone else on vacation with their families. Linda still came on by to hang out like usual, but due to her and Bob's parents staying over longer than expected made it harder and harder for her to come and visit. Even Linda had to cancel her very first date with Naruto and had to reschedule because of them, which made her extremely angry since she had been looking forward to it so much. For now she will have to patiently wait for the parents to leave to properly schedule the date. Yeah, so just let him cool off, and who knows, a few months without SEC might do him good, he teased at Francine even though he knew she had been refusing Stan SEC ever since she joined his group. Francine giggled at his joke as she finished up setting up just as customers started to form a line before the day quickly started to go by and their muffins started to disappear faster than they could restock the cases with extra muffins Francine had brought. "How much for all your muffins?" a familiar German voice spoke out as Naruto looked up and frowned as the bald African-American man in a black and orange suit as he sat down a large roll of bills. That voice seems familiar. Is that Klaus? Naruto thought as Francine rose an eyebrow at him. Thank you, but I don't think that'd be fair to everyone who has waited in line for muffins," Francine said as she handed him back the roll of bills. "Oh, I am quite sorry, I just wanted to speak to you about your business." "You could say I am a muffin connoisseur," he said as they gained a confused look as Hailey and Francine could swear they heard this man's voice before. "Have we met before?" "Because you seem awfully familiar," Francine said as he man pulled his collar back nervously. "Oh no, I am just a black German that everyone swears is familiar," the man said as Naruto raised an eyebrow on the statement. "But anyways, I would love to talk to you about your business ideas," he said as she giggled but shook her head. "That is very kind of you, but I have a business partner that helps me out with everything," Francine said as she pointed to Naruto. "Yeah, don't worry, she has all the business help she needs," he said as the man frowned as Stan fell from above and pointed his gun at him. "Stop right there, Klaus!" Stan yelled as Naruto snapped his fingers realization. "I knew it. You sounded too familiar," he said as Klaus raised his hands. "Klaus? What are you doing in a human body again?" Francine asked before she was interrupted by a man, in a pot. "Nobody move. I've got a bomb," he said as he held up a detonator. "My name is Arboreus. And for too long companies have torn down our forests for malls and muffin kiosks," he yelled as the people around him picked him up and moved him closer to Francine's kiosk. "And I've decided to blow it up," he yelled, but before he could press the button a shot rang out before he dropped the remote from a bullet going through his wrist. "Next time you are about to blow something up, don't go on a long monologue," Naruto said as he handed Stan his gun back and kicked the man down, breaking his pot. "My fellow eco-warriors. Press the button." Arboreus yelled as he tried to cover his legs in soil before one of his people picked it up and pressed the button. Naruto dove towards Francine and Hailey as explosions rang out, destroying the surrounding stores around Francine's kiosk as well as the massive centerpiece glass statue, sending massive shards everywhere while Klaus ran off to protect himself. "Stay down," he yelled over the explosions as he said as he pushed them up against him to cover them up from the glass shards that flew at them as he saw Horo bristle her fur as he could see her protecting Hailey and Francine's exposed parts. As the explosions died down, Naruto sighed and checked over Francine and Hailey for any cuts as they calmed down from the intensity of the explosion. "Are you both okay?" he asked as they shakily nodded before frowning and pointing to his back as various shards were poking out of his back. "Naruto. Are you okay?" Francine asked in fear as he nodded with a smile. "I'll be fine, I heal fast with Kurama, so just pull them out," he said as they nervously pulled the shards out and were surprised as they saw his wounds instantly close up with steam releasing from them. "The fox is powerful, so he keeps his bond safe. Be thankful you are unharmed," Horo said with a frown as Hailey and Francine nodded at her before they continued pulling shards from his back while the really small ones just fell out of him. After they got all the shards out, they turned and saw Stan lying nearby with the spear head pointed at his chest. Once checking him, they saw that it only broke his large hanging clock around his neck. "Who knew that twice in my life that hip-hop will save my life? That is for another story to tell." Stan said dramatically as Hailey helped him up as Naruto picked up Stan's gun and pointed it at Arboreus as he laid on the ground. Move and you die, kid. I don't know what kind of whack job you are, but you endangered people close to me, so you are lucky you aren't dead right now, 'cause I can legally kill you, he said as Arboreus paled and held his hands up as he used his other hand to call in what had happened. Oh my God, Klaus! Francine yelled as she ran up to the human Klaus as his lower half of his body was crushed beneath a block of the statue, showing he was extremely close to death. Main appealing body, I'm not going to make it, Klaus said, struggling to hold to stay in the body a little longer. Stan, we can't let him die, Francine said in distress. Well, that was the last body the CIA had, what do you want me to do? Stan said, not really caring. Naruto said, pointing towards the pet store with fish that looked exactly like Klaus' old body there just floating there. A few hours later, after the cleanup crew had arrived and Stan and Francine had left to save Klaus, while Naruto couldn't help but frown at the destroyed muffin kiosk. He felt bad that Francine's dream of owning a kiosk had died so suddenly. He thankfully had bought the all-intensive insurance on it, so she would have her lost income recovered and then some. It really sucks Mom's kiosk was destroyed, Hailey said with a frown as several CIA agents took Arboreus away and threw him in the back of a SUV. Pretty much serving a life sentence in prison due to mall destruction, illegally maintaining C4, and various other charges. It was actually really fun to work with her and everything, she said as he nodded. Yeah, but I can probably buy her a small store since people loved her muffins so much. Besides, the profit we made today wasn't destroyed, he said as he held up a damaged register that had only been destroyed on the outside with the money inside still safe. You'd really do that for her? Hailey asked as he chuckled and nodded. Of course, Hailey, if any of you needed help achieving your dreams, I would help you all as much as I could, even if it meant I had to spend millions, since money really doesn't matter all that much to me, he said as she smiled and kissed him loving. Ah, that's so sweet. Corny but sweet. Hailey teased as he kissed her back and held her close to him before they left the mall with Horo following behind and left for their home. He let out a tired sigh as they arrived back home to see Francine standing worriedly in his living room before she gave the both of them a hug. I'm sorry I left so suddenly, but with Klaus and everything it was so hectic, she said as he hugged her back with a chuckle. Relax, Francine, it's all okay. I took care of the mall manager stuff and picked up your payment from the insurance and register and put it in your account, he said as she nodded before he kissed her forehead. I'm sorry your kiosk was destroyed, but I'll make it up to you soon, I promise, he said as she smiled and nuzzled into his chest. How is Klaus? Did you move him to a new body in time? Hailey asked as she had saw her mother take a goldfish with them as her father had taken Klaus away. Yes, a bit depressed at losing his body, but the only way to really save him was to transfer his mind to a goldfish, Francine said. Well, at least he isn't dead, Naruto said as he fell back onto his couch and ran his hand through his hair. Today has been tiring and right now I just want to rest, he said as Hailey and Francine sat on either side of him and scooted closer to him. Yeah, laying down right now sounds perfect, Francine said as they looked up the stairs, making him laugh dryly as he stood back up. Fine, let's go sleep. If Stan asks, we can just say you went to check on Hailey and passed out on my couch, he said as they nodded and followed him upstairs as he draped his arms over their shoulders. He might be exhausted from the day, but sometimes just lying and cuddling with his girls relaxed him more than anything. Naruto smiled as he let out a sigh as he relaxed on his couch. It had been a few days since the mall incident and he had spent them getting Francine's business properly set up for her in the future when he would eventually surprise her with it. He had been alone in his house for the last day or so since everybody else was off on vacation with their friends and families. Hailey though was stuck at home looking after Roger and Steve while Francine was going off with Stan to her high school reunion. She originally wanted to take him along, but they weren't able to think up an excuse to let him come along since to Stan he was only Hailey's boyfriend. Not only that, but she had already promised Stan to bring him along to her reunion before Naruto came into their lives, so there was that. Of course Horo and Kurama were with him at home, though the two were often in the backyard relaxing under Horo's massive apple tree. Horo seemed to get along with Kurama almost perfectly, since she seemed to have a flirty and teasing personality that went perfectly with Kurama's perverted side. He was about to lay down on his couch and watch a movie when the door burst open. "Foxy! We're home," Lisa's voice sang out as he turned and smiled as he saw the sight of Lisa, Janet, Lindsay and Tiffany in his entryway as they placed some bags down before they squealed from him, scooping them all up in his arms and hugging them close to him. "My girls! You're all back," he said as he kissed them all on their cheeks with a smile. "We missed you too, Foxy," Lisa said as she kissed him on the lips and pulled back as he looked her over. "Did you get a tan?" he asked as Lisa giggled and nodded. "A bit, but because I was with my parents I couldn't get a full tan," she said with a smirk as she slid down her pants and panties to show a visible tan line on her hip. "Though maybe I can fix that later," she whispered as Janet and Lindsay came back down the stairs after they had put away their bags. "I missed you, Mstr, Janet purred out as she jumped onto his back and hung on around his neck. "We all missed you," Lindsay said as she and Tiffany grabbed onto his arms as they smiled at him. "I missed you four as well so much all summer," he said as he held them all in his arms. "Well, how about you tell us all about it as we go upstairs to the bedroom," Tiffany said as all the girls smiled as they giggled and started to lead him up to his bedroom as they all had missed their time with Naruto over the summer. "Is talking all you want to do it? Do you girls have ulterior motives?" he asked as Lisa giggled. "Well, you can't blame us for missing you so much," Lindsay said as she blushed, since she might be saving her first time with Naruto for later, but that didn't mean she still didn't have some fun with him when she could. "Plus with only Hailey and Francine around we need to remind you how much you love us as well," Lisa said as she pushed Naruto into his room as everyone smiled at him. "Thank God for my stamina because I am so going to need it," he thought as he watched all of his girls undress. "Ami." Amaterasu rolled her eyes as she watched Tiffany and the others go upstairs. She may not mind the situation, but it didn't mean that she liked to see it. She frowned as she looked around for Kurama, since normally he jumped at her whenever she came back. "What is this? A new spirit?" she thought as she walked outside, and frowned as she saw the massive tree as Kurama and a fellow wolf were laying down next to each other under it. "Ami? Is that you?" Kurama asked as he raised his head up a bit, seeming to be careful not to disturb the larger wolf that rested her head on his back. Amaterasu wasn't sure why, but something about the scene in front of her made her angry. Normally she found the perverted fox as an annoyance, but seeing him with it made something snap in her. "Who is she?" she asked as Kurama frowned while the wolf rose and she noticed it was slightly larger than she was. "I am Horo, the wise wolf. You must be the Amaterasu or Ami that Kurama has talked about," Horo said as she narrowed her eyes at the brown wolf. "Yes, I am. I am also the guardian of Tiffany. Why are you here?" Ami asked as Horo smirked and sat back down next to Kurama. "I am Hailey's guardian after she saved me by planting my tree again in the earth," Horo said as she leaned against Kurama and rubbed her head against him as she got her desired result as Kurama shuddered and Ami narrowed her eyes towards her. Whatever. "Just don't bother Tiffany and watch out around that pervert," Ami said as she turned around and stomped back inside. "Wait, Ami dash," Kurama said until Horo held up her paw. "Relax, Kurama. She'll be back soon enough," Horo said as she smiled in her head as she figured out she wasn't the only one that liked the fox that she was sitting next to. "This will be so much fun," she thought as she let out a soft laugh. Ami let out a huff as she went into her room at the section of the home where she and Kurama were able to live at, but now apparently with the new addition. "Who does that hussy beach think she is coming onto my territory? We'll see about that. I'll show her who will be top dog here," Ami said as she pictured Kurama being with her before she shook her head before she laid down and covered her snout with her paws. "Ugh, this is going to be a pain," she groaned out as she closed her eyes, hoping things would calm down after some sleep. Few hours later. Naruto let out a content sigh as his girls cuddled close to him as he had tired them out. He smiled as he trailed kisses on their cheeks before his phone started to buzz on his nightstand. "Hello Linda, what's up dear?" he asked as he heard Linda's nervous giggle on the other end. "Bob's and my parents just left and I really want to call in my date," she said as he chuckled. "You really can't wait, can you?" he asked as she let out a nervous chuckle. "Can you blame me? I've been looking forward to this the second you offered it," Linda said as he chuckled. "Well, how soon will you be ready, Linda? Because I can get a reservation real fast," he said as he smiled as his girls smiled up at him. "Well, maybe give me half an hour tops. I just want to freshen up and finish getting ready for this special occasion," Linda said as he could hear her moving things around in the background. "Okay Linda, just so you know you would be fine regardless of how you look. I will love to go on a date with you and see you," he said as she giggled. "Oh you, always a charmer," Linda said before she hung up, leaving Naruto chuckling at her. "So, already leaving us after we just got back?" Lisa teased as the other girls giggled. "And no, it's not that, it's just Dash," he said nervously before Tiffany kissed him softly, silencing him instantly. "We were kidding Naruto, we know that Linda has been waiting for this for a long while. We still need to unpack and now relax after the fun we just had," Janet said as she pointed to the still passed out Lindsay from the work Naruto did on her with his tongue. He didn't even go all the way with her since she loved to be teased and she was still saving herself for a romantic situation since she wanted to make it a special memory. "I'll make it up to everyone with a wonderful breakfast since I'll be getting back around dinner and I think Linda will keep me busy until morning," he said as they giggled as he got off the bed. "Show her a good time, Foxy. She deserves it," Lisa said as they laid back down and smiled before they started to go to sleep for a nap. Naruto quickly went into the shower to freshen up since he didn't want to smell like SEC for his date with Linda, and once done he got dressed in a casual suit. He wasn't much of one to wear a tie since he liked to keep his necklace in view, but he felt that he needed to dress very professional and because he was taking her out to a nice restaurant. He was making sure that this would be a special night for Linda. He smiled as he pulled up to Linda's and Bob's home before he went up to the door and knocked. He chuckled as he heard someone coming down the stairs in a hurry. "I'm coming. I'm almost done," she yelled as he saw the door open to see Bob smiling at him. "Sorry, she'll be right out. Do you want to come in and wait?" he asked as Naruto nodded with a smile. "Sounds great, Bob. How have you been?" he asked as Bob smirked. "I've been doing well, work has been rough but besides that can't complain," he said as they heard a loud thud from upstairs before he chuckled. "Linda has been looking forward to this and I have never seen her run to the phone faster than I did when our parents finally left," he said as Naruto laughed. "Yeah, she sounded really excited on the phone when she called me, so I believe you," Naruto said before they heard Linda start coming down the stairs. Naruto couldn't help but stare as Linda looked like a goddess on the top of the stairs. Her dress was a dull mix between bronze and gold that made her skin glow and look like bronze itself. The dress was long enough to cover her feet and had a diamond cut out on her chest that revealed a very nice amount of her cleavage, and as he watched her do a spin to show it all off he noticed it was entirely backless, showing off every inch of her back. "Wow Linda, you look gorgeous. You're making me feel underdressed," Naruto said as he accepted Linda's hand in his as he helped her down the steps. "You look handsome Naruto, I just felt like feeling pretty for our first date," Linda said as he chuckled and kissed her cheek. "Well, you achieved that and then some," he said as she giggled and smiled at him. "Well, go and enjoy yourselves. I'll make myself scarce for when you return, so no worries about me ruining your mood," Bob said as Linda smiled thankfully at Bob while Naruto sent him a nod as they left. "So where are you taking me for our special date?" Linda asked with a smile as she watched him open her door for her and help her into the car, careful to get all of her dress inside the car. "I have a reservation at one of the nicest restaurants in town that I was thankfully able to reserve with a little help from the chef, who owes me a favor." "You will love it," he said as she smiled and nodded as he got in the driver's seat and started the car. "Really? You didn't have to go that far," she said before he chuckled and softly pet her thigh. "Linda, you wanted this to be special and so did I. It only makes sense that I pull out all the stops, he said as she held his hand with a smile. She was beyond happy, to finally be able to go on a date with a man she loved and eventually connect to him after this date was amazing to her. She never actually got to do anything like this, so she was a bit giddy about it all. She was so caught up in her thoughts she didn't notice that they had arrived until he let go of her hand and left the car. "Here we are," Naruto said with a chuckle as he opened her door for her and helped her out of the car while he locked the car behind him. "This place is amazing," Linda said as she linked her arm through his and walked into the restaurant. "Nothing but the best for my goddess," he said as he escorted her inside, making her blush at the comment in him for being such a gentleman. The two spent the rest of the evening chatting and enjoying each other's company while they ate. Linda was very impressed on the atmosphere on her date, and honestly this was the first date she has had in a very long time since college, and she was enjoying every moment of it. "Naruto, you sure know how to make a girl feel special," Linda said as she finished up her dinner and smiled as he reached over the table and squeezed her hand softly. "I want all my girls to feel special and loved, Linda. I know I have a lot of girls, but I strive to make sure that every single one knows that I love them just as much as the others," he said as he kissed her hand softly, sending a small jolt up her spine that made her smile. "Naruto, trust me when I say you are doing a great job," she said as their waiter came over. "Would either of you like to order dessert, or should I give you the check?" he asked as Linda smiled. "Check please, we have something waiting for us at home," she said as she rubbed her foot against his thigh from under the table, making him smirk and nod before the waiter went off to get their check. "Can't wait, can you? So impatient, I swear," he teased as he rubbed her leg as she pressed her foot against his crotch. "What can I say, I know what I want and don't want to wait," she said with a flirtatious smirk as he widened his eyes as he felt Linda, very nimbly, unzip his pants with her foot. "Can we get the check faster?" he yelled as Linda smirked as she felt him harden under her foot before the waiter came by for him to pay. Linda let out a squeal as Naruto picked her up in a princess carry and hurried out of the restaurant the second the check was paid. "Aren't we excited?" she said with a giggle as he smirked at her before he set her down in the car and leaned close to her. "I don't take teasing well, so I'm hurrying home now," he whispered in her ear as she blushed and nodded as he quickly got in the driver's seat and sped off to Linda's house since she had wanted the date to officially end there. "Oh, I'm going to enjoy this," Linda said lustfully as she trailed kisses down his neck the entire ride home, which made Naruto speed up, making it miracle he didn't crash into something. "Trust me, so am I," he said as he rubbed her thigh and slid up her dress to reveal her soft toned legs. It wasn't long before Naruto pulled up to Linda's house as he quickly picked her back up in a princess carry and gave her peach a strong squeeze. Linda moaned out as she wrapped her arms around his neck. "Dear, please hurry up so I can get out of this awfully revealing dress," Linda whispered out as she pulled at the cleavage window on it to reveal a bit of her NPL. "Your wish is my command, you CC goddess," Naruto said, rushing them up the stairs as Bob was nowhere to be seen. He quickly opened her bedroom door to smile as her bed was covered in rose petals with lit candles all around the room. "You definitely set the mood for the occasion," he said as he laid her gently on the bed and slid off her shoes, trailing kisses up her legs that made her softly. "I wanted this to be special, the first time I have ever made love to someone I love like I do," she said as he smiled and kissed her lovingly. "Oh. And how much do you love me?" Naruto asked with a wide smirk. "Let me show you," Linda said before lunging at Naruto and pulling him down on top of her. Naruto was momentarily caught off guard as Linda had pounced on him and started kissing him, sliding her tongue into his mouth before he started kissing her back and rub her sides. "You really want this, don't you?" he said as she smirked at him and reached behind her neck to unclasp her dress. Yes, Naruto, you don't even realize how much I have been looking forward to this moment," Linda said while moaning because of Naruto rubbing and squeezing her peach. "I want you to see all of me for who I am," she said as she started to slide off her dress, "and that is someone that wants to be loved by the man she loves." Naruto couldn't help but stare at Linda's body as he helped slide her dress off. He melons were a nice low D cup that looked so soft and squeezable to him as her tips were a dark caramel color that looked CC contrasted to her bronze-colored skin. He gave her melons a soft squeeze as she moaned from his touch before the trailed his down body, stroking her stomach, peach and thighs before he saw her womanhood. It was a soft pink color with a trimmed patch of black hair over it. I knew I should have shaved, Linda muttered as he kissed her pee-pee softly, making her let out a quivering mm. I like it, it reminds me I am with a mature woman and on you this patch makes you look even sexier, he said as she looked down at him. Her eyes widened as she saw him take off his clothes to reveal his foot-long strong member to her as she could feel herself getting wet from just looking at the beast. It's huge, she muttered as Naruto chuckled and kissed her passionately. I'll be gentle if you want my goddess, he whispered into her ear as she shook her head. I can take it. Just no Anil, she said as he stared down at her. I've heard from Francine, Hailey and the others how you've used every hole of theirs but I don't want that really. I hope that's okay, she said nervously as she didn't want him to turn her down because she didn't do everything that he liked. She was taken from her thoughts as she heard him laugh softly. Linda, I would never do anything you aren't comfortable with, he said as he kissed her lips softly and stroked her cheek. Before we start let me take this off, Linda said with a smile as she slipped off her ring and handed it to him. I won't be a single woman when we do this. I don't want to be a woman in a marriage with a gay man, I want to be yours, she said as she slipped the ring into his hand. Naruto smiled as he set the ring down in the nightstand. He smirked as he took the hand the ring was on and pulled it up to his face. He kissed the front and the back of her palm and then to Linda's shock he put her ring finger into his mouth and start to suck and lick on it. She couldn't put into words how turned on this made her before he pulled her finger out of his mouth and looked her in her hazel eyes. Don't worry Linda, one day I will put our ring on this finger and when I connect to you, you will see it as the ring showing our love for each other. Naruto told her with conviction and care evident in his voice as he then took his tongue and started to slowly run it along the tan line of where her wedding ring once was. Linda couldn't help but cry from the proclamation of how much he loved her that he already thought of them being together like that. She then felt Naruto cuff her face with his hands and pull her towards him as he then started to embrace the tears off her face. Don't cry Linda, I only want to see my appealing goddess smiling that radiant smile that brightens my whole world when I see it. Naruto said as he stroked her tear-stained cheeks with his thumbs. Linda couldn't hold back anymore and dived at Naruto giving him a deep, love-filled embrace as she threw her arms around his neck to hold him closer to her. She didn't want to break this embrace for anything in the world before she finally broke their passion-laced embrace. Linda pulled back and looked down at the man that captured her heart. Well then let me show you how much I love you right now then Naruto. Linda said with a voice filled with lust and love before she leaned down and started to embrace his neck, pressing her lips more and more on his body as she started to traverse farther down his body. She couldn't help but run her tongue across his strong defined muscles, not believing she was in this situation with someone as handsome as Naruto. The only ever man she had been with has been Bob and he was more on the more pudgy side. He didn't work out besides to keep some of the weight off of him but here she was, over top of a man with a body that just oozed manliness, kissing down his abs, running her tongue over them as she could only taste him on her lips. She finally made her way all the way down to his large member. She knew that with Bob being gay he really never was into their few acts of section. It was mostly clear when he had to pop a pill to even get strong to do the deed and even then it was clear on his face he didn't enjoy it. Now though she was staring at a PP with the throbbing manhood of a younger man that was far larger than her husband. She could feel the heat pouring off of it as the smell seemed to creep up her nose almost blinding all of her other senses to everything but the throbbing pull that was inches from her face. She wanted it, she craved to have it inside of her. She wanted to do something she had always wanted to try. Linda moved closer until her face was just inches from Naruto's PP and slowly, as she made sure to savoring it and ran her tongue on his strong pages. She heard him grunt in pleasure and it made her smile to know she could bring him pleasure like this. She also couldn't help but taste Naruto now on her lips. It tasted so different compared to his lips. It was muskier, with the scent of his juices lightly coming off of it. She wanted to taste more of it, it felt so addictive. She couldn't stop herself from eating on Naruto's hot manhood more and more as she ran her tongue from his base to its head. She loved it when she made it to the head since she got the slightest taste of his pre-juices every time. She instantly grew to love the taste of his baby batter and wanted to do more to make even more juices out. After a few licks her confidence rose and she hovered over his twitching pee-pee as she opened her mouth and had her tongue hanging out of it as she slowly lowered herself down on his strong pages. She took his pee-pee inch by inch inside of her mouth and instantly loved the feeling of his hot member inside her mouth. She couldn't help herself but run her tongue along it as she kept taking more and more of it inside of her. She could feel every vein against her tongue as she continued going down. Linda kept going till she felt her GG reflex act up and she choked a little on her lover's member. As she went as low as she could, she noticed there were still some inches not in her mouth and figured she would be able to swallow more in time. She then started to bob her head up and down his but never took it all the way out of her mouth, only going until the head of it was only in her mouth. She smirked as she ate on it as she ran her tongue around the head, teasing the hole with her tongue as her tongue ran along. After that she dove her head back down, taking it back in until she felt the tickle of her GG reflex again. As she went down she ate his pee-pee while it is in her mouth. It was slowly becoming her favorite taste as she took her time and enjoyed the taste. Naruto knew this wasn't his best blwjb he has had before, since some of the girls have more experience and have practiced many times with him to know just what he likes, but for her first real time he could see she was doing her best. It was clear she was enjoying it by the way she was eating on his pee-pee. She just needed to practice to get better and he was going to make sure she was going to get a lot of it. He smiled as he decided to help her as he put his hands on her head, slowly running his fingers through her hair and petting her head. He then saw her look up at him with her large hazel eyes which looked just too cute with her mouth full of his strong pee-pee as she kept eating on it intently. He then started to pump her head on his pee-pee for her. He felt her mmm and almost GG as he pumped her but continued once she didn't stop him from controlling her head. Lick me, Linda. Lick on my strong pee-pee as it pumps in that CC mouth of yours, baby. Taste my hot pee-pee in your mouth as I F your throat. Naruto told her as he picked up speed. He could feel him hitting her breaking point over and over as he could hear the sound of her slight gagging. But that did not stop him as he kept pushing her, making her GG on his pages. He even felt her drool on his pee-pee as she gagged, but after a few seconds she started to SCK on his pee-pee with even more energy than before. As this was going, Linda was having the time of her life with her senses clouded with Naruto's smell filling her nostrils, her glazed eyes gazing upon his perfect form, her throat being ravaged by his beast of a pee-pee, and tasting his pre-juices made it all the better. She soon brought one of her hands towards his ball and started to massage them in hopes of making him leak soon, since she wanted the full-on taste of his essence badly. She soon got her wish as she felt his ball tighten up and his pee-pee starting to pulse, showing that his release was going to leak. With that she started putting in more effort into her work, so she went all the way to the base of his pee-pee each time she ate him and started to pull and squeeze Naruto's ball. Please Naruto, give me your juices, I want it. I want it so badly, Linda yelled in her mind as she saw her lover groan and tighten his grip in her hair and the bed sheets for support. Linda, I'm going to leak. Eat it all. Don't spill a drop, he groaned out as he gave one last move into her mouth before he let it out inside Linda's mouth. Linda's eyes widened as wave after powerful wave of juices hit the back of her throat, and she had to make the effort to swallow each and every drop to please him more. She couldn't keep up as the juices filled her mouth and nearly went up her nose. The taste of it on her tongue alone made her CLMX, and she eventually felt him stop leaking, though he was still rock strong inside her mouth. As it calmed down she let go of his pee-pee with an audible pop. She opened her mouth to show Naruto a very RTC sight of her swirling his seed in her mouth with her tongue. She soon swallowed the last load with her eyes closed, savoring the last bit before opening up her eyes to see Naruto blushing madly. You taste so good, Naruto. I can't wait to have seconds. Linda said in a teasing yet stuck voice, making sure she was sitting in a position that Naruto could get an eyes full of her body. Wanting to have some fun with Linda himself, he rolled over and got over top of her. To her surprise, he started to straddle her torso as he looked down on her with a fox-like grin. "Linda, I thought I told you I don't respond to teasing well," he whispered in her ear as she blushed at the powerful look in his eyes before he grabbed her melons and squeezed them before he lightly pinched her tips. Linda let out a mmm as she looked down and saw his hands massaging her melons and play with her strong tips before she saw him stick his strong member in between her melons and press them against his member. "Your melons feel so soft and warm, especially when my PP is squeezed between them," he whispered out as he started to slide his member in between her melons by slowly thrusting his hips. Linda moaned softly from the heat from his member that she felt on her melons as well as the sensation of it against her melons. He also stimulated her tips as he thrust it into her face while she stuck her tongue out to let his tip press against it. She could feel him making her tips touch his hot PP and feel it pistoning back and forth. "Linda, look at it. Look at my strong PP as I f your appealing melons." Naruto stopped move for a minute with his PP still in between her brst, some juices seeping from the head of his pages. "Do you see yummy juices there waiting for you to taste it? Well, lean up, give it a taste," Naruto said to Linda as he gave her melons a strong move, getting a mmm to creep from her lips before the tip entered her mouth a bit due to its length. As she looked at his strong PP while it left her mouth, she did notice his juices slowly leaking from his throbbing. Wanting more than anything to taste, she stuck her tongue out as she leaned up and started to suck on his tip head as he was still between her melons. As she ate and ate juices off of the end of her PP, she couldn't believe she was lying here as a man vigorously f her melons. Naruto couldn't help but smile as he saw his CC goddess pleasing his strong PP again as he violated her soft luscious melons before he started to move a bit faster. Every time his PP came to Linda's face, she would lean forward and give it a lick or a suck before he would go and pump between her melons again. Naruto f her brst over and over while still stmltng her tips and massaging her brst at the same time. He knew he wouldn't last much longer, but he wanted to mark Linda when he did leak. "I am leaking, Linda. Look at it, open your mouth to get another taste. I am going to leak all over your face and melons. I am going to mark your body as mine with my hot juices," Naruto said as he picked up his speed even more. Once Linda heard him, the idea of being claimed and also dirted by Naruto sounded so hot to her she couldn't help but want it as she leaned up and faced his PP with closed eyes and open mouth, eagerly waiting for her man to shower her face in his juices. Naruto let out a groan as he climaxed all over her face. Thick ropes of juices flew from him onto Linda. The first one did land in her mouth and she got another mouthful of his seed. But the next one Naruto aimed it so it shot all over her face, putting white stains all over her perfect bronze skin. He then targeted her brst and shot the rest of his load all over her brst. He covered them in his hot seed. Once he finally finished, he pulled his PP from her brst, still throbbing strong, to Linda's shock and joy. Linda opened her eyes cautiously, careful not to get any juices in them as she wiped her face before eating on her juices-covered fingers. "You really covered me. I think you covered my melons entirely," Linda said as she grabbed her melons and started to lick them clean, smirking as she saw Naruto's member throb as he watched her clean herself off. He had seen enough as she ate her melons as clean as she could before he took her and opened her legs and saw her womanhood was dripping wet from all their past activities. He smirked as he took his throbbing PP and started to run it on her lower lips. He felt her spasm from the stmltn of her lower half while he pressed his tip against her. "Are you ready, Linda? Are you ready to finally have me inside of you? Are you ready to be truly claimed by a man that loved you? Do you want this throbbing juices-covered PP filling your insides over and over?" Naruto asked as he kept running his hot PP on her already soaked pages. He could see the leftover juices on his PP start to mix with her own seeping arsehole as he keeps contact with her and grinded against her CLT as he teased her. "Yes. I have been ready for a long time, Naruto. I want you to claim me. I want to be yours and only yours. I want to feel what it is like to be with a man that truly wants me. I want you to take that big PP of yours and F me please, Linda pleaded as she rocked her peach, putting some pressure on the strong PP that was probing her tight PP. Naruto smiled as he leaned down and kissed her soft lips, giving her a passionate love-filled embrace. As he did this he went and plunged deep inside her. She was so tight that he couldn't bottom out inside of her, but he was clearly able to fill her quivering PP to its breaking point. He could hear Linda moaning into his mouth as she felt her body being penetrated by his hot PP. He stopped kissing her and looked down at the panting woman under him. Her melons were still covered in his juices and so was some of her face. She was panting heavily and he could tell she was adjusting to having something so large inside of her for the first time. When she started trying to move her peach on him he knew she was ready. Oh God, it feels so good. I love having you in me, Naruto. Your PP is filling me more anyone or any toy ever could. Please F me, I want you to own this tight PP of your baby. I want you to make me leak all over your strong big PP, Naruto, make me your woman. Linda pleaded as she became used to feeling such a big tool inside her. Now she want nothing more for it to F her until she was stupid. He grinned as he held onto her peach and started to move in and out of her vigorously. He would pull his PP out to the point only his head was still inside her, stretching her insides, as he then would do a powerful move of his hips, pushing in as much of his strong PP as his body could go. He even felt his PP make contact with her womb in the back of her, which made her let out a very appealing scream, as even a little PSS leaks out of her when he would hit against it with some real force. He could tell she finally orgasm would be a wet one and he couldn't wait to stain this bed with her pleasure. As he continued thrusting he smiled and leaned down to her ear. Leak for me, Linda, let it all out while I fill up your womb and PP with my hot juices. Let me hear you scream, he said as he lifted up her lower half off the bed while he held her peach even tighter. Linda's body, acting more on instinct, wrapped her legs around his pistoning hips to keep him in her. She didn't need to be told to leak. She knew she had been having CLMX after CLMX from his powerful move into her person, but she knew they were building more and more as he pumped into her from over top her. Yes, Naruto. I am leaking again. God, it feels so good to have a PPF me. I want more. I want to leak all over this amazing thing deep inside me. Leak inside me, baby, I don't care, just don't pull out of me. Don't stop F me. Linda screamed out as Naruto smiled and he picked up the pace even faster as he F her. His move went even deeper and he angled his PP to his every inch inside her PP, making sure to hit the spots that got the biggest reaction out of her over and over. He even reached down and started to massage and pinch her strong swollen CLT as he kept F her, that made her shoot her head back and let out another scream. Oh God, Naruto, I am leaking. I am going to leak. F, this is so much better than anything else I have ever had. And Naruto, stop please, if you keep going I am going to PSS myself when I leak. And Naruto. Linda, thinking Naruto would give her a break to keep from being messed all over, instead looked at her with a foxy grin and started to pump back into her even harder and faster. Linda let out a quivering mmm as she realized he wanted her to leak as strong as she could, and if she broke and squirted when she did he would be okay with it. The thought of being F to that point was the thing put her over the edge as she leaned her head back in the bed and arched her back as she came strong all over him. She squirted all over his strong PP and abs as he kept thrusting into her twitching and convulsing pages. He didn't stop even as she came, and Linda couldn't believe she squirted. She had never done that before, and even on top of that, as she made a mess all over her bed, this young man kept effort through her orgasm, extending it for far longer. Linda, thinking their fun was done, was shocked when Naruto pulled her on top of his lap, even more so when she felt his PP was still as strong as ever and it just impaled her on it. She felt her whole weight drop down on his strong PP, making his PP press against her womb. She couldn't believe how he could still be strong after all they have done. Tell me, my goddess, which do you want first? To ride my strong PP and bounce on it till I flood your insides with my hot juices? Or to be bent over on all fours and have me F you from the back like an animal. Either way I am going to do both to you, but I will let you pick which one we do first. Naruto told Linda as he held onto her peach and rocked her on his strong PP, making it stir around inside her and rub against her PP as he felt it squeeze around him, wanting to have load after load of juices inside of it. Please let me ride," Linda stuttered out as she held onto him for support as she moaned as he continued to grind her up against him. "Just please coat my insides with your juices," she moaned out as she felt him grab onto her peach before he lifted her up so only his tip was inside her and held her there for a bit before he smiled at her. "Don't you worry about that, Linda, I will make sure to paint your insides with my hot juices till you are cleaned out and made only for me and my fat PP baby. Now ride this strong PP, show everyone the true woman you are. No more hiding or pretending. I want the real Linda to leak out and ride this PP that is here for her pleasure and enjoyment," he said as he dropped her down onto him, piercing her again and hitting her womb as she let out another mournful scream. His words hit home as she thought about how much she pretended or put on an act for other people. From her marriage to her SXL desires, and here she was with a man that loved her and didn't care for her act. He wanted the real her in all her glory and she was going to give it to him. She placed her hands on his shoulders and started to wiggle her peach around on his PP, making it slide all around inside of her. Then Linda finally rose her peach, making more and more of his PP leak out till he was barely in her. Then looking into Naruto's eyes she dropped her peach down on his PP, making it rush inside her and reach her every fullest. SSHT God, I love your fat PP Naruto. I am going to F you till I can never forget your PP baby. My PP will forget Bob was ever here, for now on it is for this fat thick PP and it alone. So watch as I F myself on her strong PP baby. Feel my tight PP milk your great PP till you cause this tight PP of yours to overflow with your seed. Linda said, finally saying what was on her mind, and it felt so good. She then started to pump her peach with determination to make it clear she was trying to reshape her own PP around his PP and not only get herself off but make him leak as well. Naruto smiled as Linda panted and continued to ride him as he squeezed her peach strong. "That's a good girl, keep going." "I'm so close," he said as she nodded and sped up. "God, yes, your PP feels so good. I love having you inside me. F me. F me Naruto. I want you to see me burst right here on you. Leak in me, baby. I want you to be the first and only one to ever leak inside of me, baby." Linda said as she wrapped her arms around Naruto's neck and used it as leverage to pump herself even harder on him. They held out as long as they could to enjoy the pleasure, but soon climaxed, feeling waves of it all. From Linda getting his seed inside of her to Naruto feeling her constrict on him along with spraying on him once again. Once that they had calmed down, Naruto had brought his form up to Linda. "Now get on all fours so I can F you even more like an animal," he whispered out as Linda bit her lip with a smile. She nodded and slowly took herself off of his rod, causing some of his SPRM to freely leak out of her, much to her disappointment, feeling Naruto's warmth leave her, but she would soon get more. Once facing the other end of the bed with one of her hands grasping the metal bed frame, she used her other hand to spread her juices-filled PP to her new god of a lover. "Please Naruto, fill me up once more with your PP for your goddess," Linda said with her SXL high still active, knowing he was going to comply regardless. He did say to her that he wanted to make an animal out of her in the end, so might as well go in this position. Naruto grinned as he looked at the panting beauty in front of him present herself for him as his seed poured out of her. He came behind her and gripped her lush sweat-covered peach with his hands, holding on tightly as he leaned over and whispered into her ear as he stroked his strong erkn on her juices-covered PP. "Trust me Linda, I am doing to F you into the bed and have you watch as your sweet PP is overloaded with my juices. I will make it where you know who owns this CC body from this point onward. And don't you worry, even after this go around I have lots and lots of energy left for us to go all night, and I won't stop till I cause that stomach to bloat with my baby batter," Naruto told her as he said the words, "baby batter," slower as he quickly plunged his whole length inside of her in one strong push. He wanted to rip that bed frame off and put a hole in the wall as he gripped the frame over where Linda was holding and started to F her strong and fast with every intent to break her tight PP in and see it overflow again. Yes. Yes. Yes, please bloat me with juices. Make me yours. Give me your baby batter, Naruto. I need this, Linda yelled as she felt him plow from behind harder and seeing the frame of the bed shake more and more with each move. She soon saw Naruto's hand go towards hers that was holding onto the frame for support and intertwined their hands and held on tight, making her feel happy on the additional action. Linda could feel his PP move into her to her fullest over and over. It felt like he was shifting her very insides with his strong powerful move. She could even feel her womb almost being hungry for more of his seed. Thank God I went on the pill when this whole relationship started, or else there was no way I was going to not be pregnant when this night is over, Linda thought. Not that she wouldn't love to have his child, but maybe not just yet. After she felt his move become even more powerful as he also angled himself to make every pump grind against her G-stop, Linda knew her mind was gone. All she could do was feel her eyes roll in the back of her head and her tongue hang out of her mouth as she let primal grunts and moans while his PP reshaped her very insides while sloshing around the juices that he already dumped deep inside her once tight womanhood. He was doing just what he said he would, he was F her like an animal. As this was going, Naruto decided to have a bit more fun into all of this, so he reaches over Linda towards the nightstand to pick up his phone. He went towards the video/camera function and started recording of what his current actions are. Naruto eventually flipped Linda over with her laying on her back staring up at her lover and saw what he is doing. Naruto, why, are you recording this? She asked with him smile on her face. Well, I thought it could be fun to send a video of this to Fran and the other girls in our little group. Would you like to say hi to them, Linda? Would you like to tell them how much you enjoy being with me now? Oh, while you're at it, mind holding up your hands and put on a peace sign. Always heard it was supposed to be CC as hell, but wanted to see it for myself in this current situation, Naruto said, getting Linda to think for a brief moment before she started bringing her hands up to her face and got both into a peace sign. Just as she did that, she felt her mind breaking and Naruto penetrating her womb, getting her to gain a stupid face with her tongue sticking out. Hi girls, I'm Linda. I love being done by our man Naruto and he makes my life complete. I want this man to ravage me more with his big thick pages. OSHT. It feels so good to have him inside of me. He is touching all the way to the back of my womb with each move. He is breaking me and I love it. He has leaked into me so many times and he says he will do it even more. My salty PP is now hungry for more of his juices, she said as Naruto took the camera and aimed down to her juices-covered PP, showing his strong PP thrusting into her as hers and his juices seep from around his PP and splash all over them as he kept F her. Do you see, girls, this is what he has done to my tight PP, he has made it his. It feels so good to have him leak inside of you, she said as she let out another loud mm. I just came again, I can't stop as long as he is in me, I have to keep leaking. Watch me, watch as Naruto F his new beach till she can't take anymore and I pass out with him leaking in my PP. Linda told the camera, not even caring who might see this video anymore or the salty face she was showing to everyone. All she cared about was the need to keep being plowed by her love. After her bit was done, he kept on plowing right through her, still recording their actions. Their final release was about to leak soon and they needed one final push. So Naruto leaned down with getting the camera facing them as he kisses Linda's mouth, getting her to CLMX one final time. He groaned a bit as he finally unloaded the last of his SPRM directly into her womb with them screaming into each other's mouths. Naruto soon pulled out and laid on his back, taking deep breaths while he had his camera facing him and Linda. Hey, girls. Hope you enjoy all of this. Hope that this could satisfy your nights without me. I have to get back to F Linda here for the rest of the night after we catch our breaths, since we are far from done. But here is what you girls have to look forward to once the time is right. Naruto pans down and shows the camera his strong throbbing pages. It was shining from their mix of juices covering it and his own dripping from the tip as it remained strong as a rock. He wanted to remind the girls what he will be making love with them with and showing some what they have to look forward to. "Love you all very much," he said as he stopped recording the video and started sending the video to each of his girls in the group so far, along with sending ones to Scarlett and Sewell with personalized messages attached to the videos of telling them that he hoped this video could make up for the ones he has gotten from them. He soon sent them all and shut off his phone with him, realizing his phone was about to die soon, so he won't get any responses until the morning. "Now where were we?" Naruto asked as he take and pull Linda back on top of him and started to ravish her insides as she screamed and moaned loudly, not knowing how long she could last at this rate. Unknown to the two lovebirds, the messages had reached their destinations and gotten various reactions from those that have seen the videos. Lisa, Janet, Tiffany, and Lindsay were together at Naruto's home spending some girl time together before receiving a message from Naruto. Once opening it up, they ended up having the same thought of how KNKY the video was, and each of them were getting turned on by the action. "Well, I have some toys we can always play with to help," Lisa said as the other girls giggled and some blushed as Lisa laughed. "It's not like it's the first time we've seen each other come from our group time with Naruto," Lisa said as they nodded and all went upstairs and spent the remainder of the night pleasuring themselves. Hailey groaned as she sat in the living room as her mother had stuck her with watching after Steve and Roger while she was away at her high school reunion. She had been so bored until her phone buzzed and she saw she had gotten a message from Naruto. She was shocked and oddly turned on as she watched a bit of the video on mute before it got too much for her and she had to rush to her room. "Don't bother me, I have to do something in my room," Hailey yelled at her brother as he waved her off as he was too busy with his computer before she slipped into her room, locked the door and grabbed her VBRTR that she hadn't had to use ever since she and Naruto became NTMT. Thankfully Roger was passed out drunk and Steve had his headphones on, so no one was able to hear her moans as she came from watching the video of her lover F another woman. On the other side of the country, Sewell was having a late dinner with her family and was feeling bored until she soon got a message from Naruto which brightened up her day. Once reading the message, she finished up her dinner before excusing herself and went to the closest restroom and started playing the video. Sewell's reactions were a mix of jealousy and pleasure when she saw the video and wanted to be the one that was in it. She reread the message of telling her that he couldn't wait to ravage her when they meet again and apologizing if she was hurt in any manner. Sewell smiled as she settled down until she decided to rewatch the video again to imagine herself in Linda's spot. "I'll show you, Naruto. I'll show you how much I feel for you when we reunite. My love," Sewell thought as she kept on watching the video and played with herself for who knows how long with her VBRTR she lovingly named Naruto. On the secure location of Area 51, Scarlett was finishing up a long day's work of transporting a dangerous alien for further study. She was on her way on home and rest for another day until she received a message from Naruto with a video attachment. In the message he told her that he still missed her and the times of being together, that he couldn't wait for the day they reunite after so long. He also had put down a video in hopes of paying back at least of what she sent to him those various times. She was very touched on what he said and loved him still to this day, that she couldn't wait to be with her only love in life again. Once getting home and into her bedroom, she played the video and was instantly turned on with what she is seeing before she started playing with herself. "Oh Naruto, it really seems I truly taught you well. I truly can't wait for us to be together again and show your girls where you got your experience from," Scarlett said as she pulled out Naruto Jr. from her nightstand drawer and turned it on before pleasuring herself for the rest of the night. Morning. Naruto groaned as he woke up and stretched his arms, popping his stiff joints as he saw that Linda was not in bed. He also frowned at the balled-up sheets that were on the ground near her hamper as they had ruined it with all of the juices that got on it. His frown became a smile once he smelt the scent of bacon and could hear someone cooking as he slipped on his boxers and pants, as those were all he could find before heading downstairs. He smiled as he found out where his shirt went as he saw Linda wearing it with nothing but her panties on underneath, with the first few buttons undone to reveal some of her chest. He also smirked as he saw her hair was a bit damp, showing she had taken a shower. "So this is where you snuck off to," he whispered as he snuck behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist, making her jump and let out a squeak. "Dee, don't scare me like that," she said with a pout as she bopped him with the unused spatula that she was about to use. "Sorry, I just couldn't resist, especially with you wearing this," he said as he slid up the back of his shirt to reveal a pair of black lacy panties that clung to her tightly. "Well, I just wanted to enjoy your smell," she said as he kissed her cheek and held her close to him, pressing up against her peach as she bit her lip. "I can see." "How did you sleep?" he asked as he rested his head on her shoulder as she continued to cook. "I slept wonderfully. After how exhausted you made me, I was surprised that I was even able to wake up," she teased as he smiled and rubbed her sides. "That sounds like a fun time," he teased as he kissed her neck. "So you enjoyed a shower without me?" "I'm hurt," he said as she giggled and kissed his cheek. "I had to since you kind of filled me up, and as much as I love the feeling of it I can't really go walking around with it inside me," she said as she let out a soft as she felt him grind up against her peach as he nibbled on her neck. "Who says you can't? I think it would be so hot to have you filled up with my juices as you walk around town," he said as he turned her head and kissed her deeply as he slid his tongue in her mouth. She smiled as she kissed him back before they had to pull away as the bacon was almost about to burn. "Sit down so I can serve you your breakfast. We can talk about how KNKY that sounds later," she said with a giggle as he kissed her neck again before letting her go and moving to the table. "Great-looking breakfast made by a gorgeous woman. I am so lucky," Naruto said as she laughed and set down his food. "Don't any of the other girls make you food?" she asked as he nodded a bit. "Well, most of the time I cook with them helping, so this is one of the few times that I didn't help make the food," he said as she smiled happily and kissed his cheek. "Well, eat up, knowing how you normally are you probably have a busy day," she said as he started to eat as she scooted closer to him and leaned against him with a smile. He smiled as he started to eat his food and found it delicious. "This is really good, Linda," he said as he slid one of his hands under the table and onto her leg, making her bite her lip. "Thank you, Naruto, but keep eating," she said as he smirked at her and slowly slid his hand higher and higher up her thigh. "Oh, don't worry, I can eat with one hand," he said as she let out a as his hand slid in between her legs with a smile. Breakfast continued until Linda reached her breaking point and dragged him off into the shower since he still needed one and she wanted to have more fun as he had teased her enough. About an hour later, Naruto smiled at Linda as he laid her on the couch after he had to dress her back in his button-up and her panties as she was in a dazed state. He decided to wear his clothes from last night, using his suit jacket to cover up his bare chest since he decided to let Linda keep his shirt since she enjoyed it so much. "Linda, I have to go," he whispered as he leaned down and kissed her forehead as her half-lidded eyes looked up at him. "Call me later," she mumbled out as he chuckled and kissed her lips softly as best as he could as her face was stuck in a large smile. "Of course I will, sweetie." "Love you," he said as her smile grew. "Love you too," she said as he chuckled and went to the door, picking up his keys. And his dead cell phone on the way. He was somewhat startled as the door opened to reveal Bob as he had just gotten home. "Oh, Naruto, didn't know you were still here. Do you need me to still be out of your hair?" Bob asked as Naruto shook his head with a chuckle. "No, Bob, you're fine. Thanks though, and I'm sorry for somewhat kicking you out of your house," he said as Bob laughed and waved it off. "I wanted to let Linda have some time with you without worrying about me ruining the mood," Bob said as he peeked over Naruto's shoulder. "So where is she?" he asked as Naruto chuckled. "She's pretty tired, so I laid her on the couch. She should snap out of it in a bit," Naruto said as he rubbed the back of his neck. Bob raised his eyebrow in confusion until a knowing smirk grew on his face. "Oh. She got tired. I get it, say no more, I'll help her to the room," Bob said as Naruto chuckled nervously before Bob patted him on the back. "Thanks for actually making her feel like a woman. With her being stuck with me I feel pretty bad about it," he said as Naruto nodded. "I got it from here though, you are probably busy," he said as Naruto nodded. "Thanks, Bob," he said as Bob waved it off as he left. Bob chuckled as he saw the state Linda was in as she was giggling on the couch with a bit of drool coming out of the corner of her mouth. "Come on Linda, let's get you to bed so you can sleep this off," Bob said with a laugh as Linda started to giggle more as he helped her up. "He made my legs like jello," she giggled out as Bob resisted the urge to laugh at the woman he considered to be his best friend. "I bet he did, knowing him he did a lot more from the way the house reeks of section. Yeah, probably going to need to light up candles and matches to get rid of the smell," he said as she kept giggling before they reached the room. "Linda, why is our bed soaking wet?" he asked as Linda blushed and giggled. "We had too much fun, we need a new bed," she sung out in a dazed tone as he sighed and shook his head with a smile. "Good job Naruto," he said as he gently sat Linda down on one of the lounge chairs he used when relaxing in the room and pulled out his phone. "Yes, is this mattress master's? I need a new king-size mattress, there seemed to have been a leak in my house and it's kind of ruined," he said as he looked over to the now sleeping Linda. "Yes, I'm going to need it delivered. Also, does it come with a sheet?" he asked as he saw the ruined crumpled sheet in the hamper but still couldn't help but find the entire situation hilarious. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 6. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Dragon from Heaven on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video, till then goodbye.